G'day, mate. It's me, Willie, the TapWyse Owl. Down under, we've got a cheeky little game called Two Facts and a Fib. Reckon you can spot the porky? Number 1. Before hitting record, Andrew swore blind that this was a ripper idea and that my true blue Aussie accent would be a smash hit with all you crafty beer professionals on the YouTubes. Number 2. TapWyse makes it dead easy to run your beer club and bring your mates back to the bar with your very own branded brewery app. Monthly subs are a breeze, perks and rewards tick along on autopilot, and the cash lands in your bank account every night, you business legend. Number 3. In the past year, breweries have pulled in nearly 100,000 extra chatroom visits and raked in over $1 million in recurring revenue with apps of their own. Got the fib? Right, mate. Andrew reckoned this was a bugger idea, but joke's on him. I went and did it anyway. So book a demo today and let's show Andrew you're keen on packed tap rooms, steady revenue, and of course me, Willie, the TapWyse Owl. Cheers, Cobber. Now enough chin wag. Let's get on to the learny bit.
Hello, everybody, and thanks again for tuning in to our fall virtual conference. Special thanks to both Ollie and TapWyse for all your support on this. CBP is also continuing to put out resources thanks to the support of our partners just like those two. Huge thanks to all of our speakers, including those you're looking right at you right now, who have and will hop on the virtual stage. You're joining us now for intentional growth, how to expand without losing control. In today's challenging beverage landscape, most breweries aren't chasing overnight success as the next big regional or national player. Instead, growth comes from intentional moves that fit the business. In this panel, you're about to hear from several of your peers who have expanded by adding kitchens, stepping away from distribution, and building private event programs, all without losing control. The right next step for you might not be bigger, just better for your business. Now, let's meet our guest. And Stephen, you're to the right of me. You get to go first.
All right, I'm Steve Fuller, founder and head brewer of Wackadoo Brewing. We're here in Colorado Springs, Colorado. We're 100% veteran-owned and operated, and everything we do is for, with, and through veterans.
Awesome, Stephen. Nice to finally meet you on camera. So appreciate you being here.
Yeah.
Brian, you're up.
Sure. I'm Brian Quinn. I'm a co-founder alongside my sister Colleen of Atomic Clock Brewing company here in Durham, North Carolina. Been a longtime brewer, doing a lot of startups. I work some nonprofit work through the Many Faces Initiative that supports people of color that are interested in exploring craft beer careers. And I serve on the Brewers Guild Board of Directors here in North Carolina as well. So try to stay very busy.
And I'm excited to visit your brewery for the first time when I come down for the conference coming up in North Carolina. It's going to be great to go to Durham.
Look forward to seeing you.
Now, Erin, your turn.
Hi, I'm Erin Bullard with my husband, Brian. We own ONCO Fermentations in Tully, New York. It's kind of a suburb of Syracuse, but it's sort of rural. So we kind of put an urban warehouse feel in rural America, and we surprised the town why we went there. We've become a little more focused on the community as the 6 years have gone by and dialed things back. But I run the marketing, the events, the tap room, everything but the brewing, but I do help brew. Yeah, that's about it.
Well, thank you again for being here. Looks like Jess, I'm going to be adding back into the studio right now. So Jess, welcome back and tell us a little bit more about what you do.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jessica Kraus. I am the co-owner of Philosophy Brewery down in Bullard, Nebraska. We're a small town of about 5,000 people. Small tap room, 4-barrel system, sits about 100 people. I manage all of our events, all of our social media marketing, and I get to be the hype girl of the tap room.
And you're always busy based on everything that you said. So I imagine if you're going to scale the business, it has to be intentional. So what does intentional growth mean to you, Jess?
It means, is the juice worth the squeeze? Honestly, you've got this much time, but this much stuff to do. And so how are you going to really utilize your time in the best way that it's going to benefit you and your business the most? So whether it's something you want to do or whether it's something you know you should do, like brewing seltzers. Nobody wants to brew a seltzer, but damn it, do they sell?
That's a good example there. Erin, how about you? When you think of growth, what is it in your mind?
Honestly, right now it is in surviving and just making the right decisions to make sure that we're around in 10 or more years. And that's just taking a very step back and think about everything that we want to do and using what we have available to us, not spreading ourselves thin, and trying to get more asses in the seats. We're very community focused, but we're still trying to cast a wide net locally to keep the tourism going, which is, what it was all about when we first got into it. So with adding certain things to the menu or to the beer is all about educating the customers and making sure that they want to keep coming back, that they don't get bored, and that we can rein in some new ones.
And in just a minute, we'll dive into the strategies you four are doing to make that possible. But Brian, define intentional growth for me from your perspective.
Well, I definitely think there is kind of that dollars and cents equation that goes into any expansion or growth projects. But, for me, it's very much about making sure that our plans for growth and expansion kind of align with our core values and our, what we're passionate about. And, we very much wanted to take a hospitality focused approach to opening up Atomic Clock. So, when we're thinking about that, like, simply just going wider and wider with distribution might not necessarily align with one of our key goals being to create a very unique, taproom experience for our customers. So, we're always kind of thinking about growth within the lens of, some of these core business values that we had when we were getting this brewery going.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian. And Stephen, to you?
It's we've been watching so many places, like Erin said, exactly. It's going into like survival mode. Last year, 5 major breweries here in town closed. This year, a couple more have closed. Some are up for sale right now. And it's, okay, what do we do? Where can we pull back from? Where can we min-max, what time we have and the things we're doing? Constantly trying to try new kinds of events or do different things, and kind of throwing everything at the wall, seeing what sticks, what we can stay with, and what things we can drop away that aren't returning the value, to keep everything going. And like we were going to talk about cutting out distribution or trying to get more people just in the doors, things like that. It's become very important, instead of just, oh, this wasn't that big of a deal, we'll keep trying it, to, okay, that's not working. We have to go somewhere else. Where are the routes can we take? Trying to get outside the box more.
Definitely. Now, Brian, I want you to start the next question, because I know you all have a pretty strong food program. And one thing you mentioned just a moment ago, you talked about how Atomic Clock has that hospitality approach, which I love hearing the word hospitality more in this industry. I've been preaching a lot of taproom things for almost a decade now, and I really wasn't using the term hospitality in the beginning, but that's what we are right now. We're hospitality businesses. We're competing with every place from the brewery down the street to the baseball game they could go to at night to the coffee shop. There's so many things capturing people's attention. So where does food fall in the Atomic Clock, importance?
Yeah, I mean, our food program is it plays a huge role in our overall business plan, and that was something as a younger brewery, we just opened up a year and a half ago. We wanted to open with a lot of intentionality behind our food program, and we wanted to invest in the right people to deliver a food program that really would be memorable and kind of stand out in a crowded brewery landscape. Far too often I see breweries that maybe opened originally without a food program that bring it in, and the food feels like a little bit of an afterthought. Sometimes they're expanding into like some storage area in the brewery and trying to cram a kitchen in there, and it's harder to do that when you're 3 years in a lot of times, instead of getting set up for success day one. And we've been very fortunate to have found a great executive chef to kind of help us execute on the food program that we want to deliver. We didn't want to just do some pretzels and flatbreads and kind of that same thing that you see in a lot of the breweries where food does feel a little bit more like all right, we want to do something, but what can we realistically do? And we're able to explore just a huge range of food options. We have a very eclectic menu. We do a lot of food-centric programming, monthly beer dinners, which have been extremely popular, and a lot of our events are have a really big food component associated with them. And I think it has been probably one of the biggest key differentiators for us, making us stand out, from a crowded pack that's just kind of a lot of brewery white noise.
So Brian, I know, you mentioned you hired an executive chef. That sounds super fancy and awesome for your brewery, but I know lots of breweries are very hesitant to invest in a person like that. And often the taproom manager, who might not have any experience in food, gets stuck making paninis and pizza. So how has having that person made the life easier?
Well, I mean, we have been very fortunate to have had that, steady rock within our kitchen from day one. That's not to say that there hasn't been a lot of turnover in the kitchen, and it's not without, challenges. And, my sister definitely gets to deal with that side of it a little bit more. There have been days when we've been short-staffed, and she's she's on the fryer for a little bit. So you do have to have, a real strong commitment to that, and it helps to find the right people to help you build that program and that you can trust on, and that ultimately means that you're going to need to invest more resources and money into bringing on and retaining those people. But then at the end of the day, you just got to kind of keep your eyes laser focused on what are very slim profit margins with food. But recognizing that food program is such a huge draw to our space, and so much of our revenue is tied to food coming in, people coming in for food, even if they're not huge beer fans, and that's I think a big thing that people are starting to have to grapple with in the current beer scene, is that it's not just about beer. You've got to be doing
paradigm shift.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
No, thanks for sharing all that, Erin.
So we take a different approach. The food actually helped us find a passion we didn't know we had. We have a portable ventless kitchen that wheels in and out of the brew house. This freezer you hear running was a free gift. It kind of helped us decide to start it. We thought about a bigger kitchen, and then we just do pizzas, and then we got another smaller oven for some baked items. But we wheel it out on brew days, and we wheel it in for the kitchen, and husband and I bobbing around. And now we're here. We just opened Wednesdays to add another revenue day. That one will be focused on food specials, but what we always try and do with our food is not lose sight of the beer. And we want them in for the food, but that's so they stay and enjoy the beer. So we take a different approach. But the food is actually a high revenue for us, and it's usually the highest revenue of the weekend. So it was a smart move, but keep it very, very small, very tight before we think about adding any more food component on it.
Erin, what does your food setup look like in your kitchen, like as in the equipment that you have?
I have a Turbo Chef pizza oven. It cooks pizzas in 2.5 minutes. We thought we'd make our own dough, but we found a dough that rises really well, and we cold ferment it so it digests it and breaks it down and makes it fluffier. And then we just got an Express Chef that we buy some pre-baked wings, and we cook them in there so we can get an order of 10 wings out in 5 minutes.
And that's ventless?
That's ventless, yep.
Yeah.
And it just so happened because we had the 3-bay sink and the hand wash sink and our brewery was licensed as a manufacturing space. We got licensed as a full kitchen. So we could add what we want to it. We would have to do regulations, like if we added a fryer, we'd have to do all that, the grease traps and things like that. But we're keeping it very simple. And we just change the pizzas up every week. We do a special pizza. We're small enough, we're nimble enough where we don't have to worry about too much stock, or we can't do something new on the fly. And we do cater our large parties that we throw. If they want our food, we will cook for them. So that's been a nice add-on since 2023.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. Stephen, how about you? What's the impact of food at Wackadoo?
It's been great, actually. It's funny enough, I talked to a lot of the other breweries around town, try to get a feel for everything was. And most people were getting away from their kitchens and going back to food trucks. And a lot of people were dropping that because the cost of the staff to be running the kitchen, the ingredients and everything you do. And we went the other way around, and we started off real simple, just kind of fun, simple comfort food. Grilled cheese sandwich. I can make you a grilled cheese sandwich 1,764 different ways. And then a couple of kinds of soup. So it was just grilled cheese and tomato soup, And then from there, every month we were like, okay, now let's add on chicken tenders and, chicken Caesar salad, chicken sandwiches. And then we started adding in tots, fries, fried pickles, mozzarella sticks, and then burgers. And our smash burgers actually become very, very popular. And we just added some pizzas on there as well. But it's like every couple of months on a Sunday, we just pick a random day and like, hey, everybody come in, we're trying this new food item. Tell us what you think about it. And then if it's overwhelmingly positive, we add it to the menu. If it's not, we dump it, move on to something else. And so we've kind of let our customers decide what items we've got on there. And it's worked out really well. And we charge, I mean, we break even on our food because it's brought in more people because we have food, and it keeps people there longer. Even if it's just an order or a basket of fried pickles, now they can have another beer, and they're like, yeah, we were going to go somewhere else, and instead we can just stay here and have a little more snack. And we've seen the growth in the beer sales because we have the food options now. And food trucks, unfortunately, at least here, they're notoriously unreliable. They can leave whenever they want, cancel whenever they want, and you could have a big event, 2 or 3 food trucks scheduled, and then just cancel that morning. And then you're stuck, and people aren't mad at the food trucks. They come in and they're mad at you because you don't have the food that you said you were going to have. So we switched it up to the kitchen 7 days a week. It's open. People love coming in. We even do like a brunch special on Sundays. And just those little things we've already seen, just since January, a tremendous growth. This year, we're up 10 to 15% every month over the last year, simply by having the extra food option, just an option.
Wow. So how long did you go before you added in food?
About 2.5 years, 2.5 years before we got the kitchen open, because we were working with a restaurant next door, but it was very one-sided relationship. They had their menus on our tables. They got the food. We never got anything for it. They never advertised for us, but we had them on our website. We were doing a bunch of stuff for them. And over time, it was like, yeah, I'm glad you're making $3,000 to $4,000 a month off my customers, but they wouldn't talk about us. It was always one-sided. So finally we were like, okay, we're going to get our own kitchen open.
Well, I'm glad you have that open. I can't wait to try it someday.
Definitely.
Now, Jess, talk to us a little bit, Jess, about your food program. I'd love to hear what you have going on at Lost Way.
So we started off with food trucks. I don't think we served anything other than just like hard pretzels in our tap room, and for the first 5 years, probably. Small town Nebraska, so we were pretty lucky enough to have a decent rotation of food trucks for those first couple of years. But again, especially around COVID, they all just became so unreliable. We need to find a different option. I personally never wanted to serve food in my tap room. I was just like, I've worked in the restaurant industry for way too long, and I know that that's a headache we don't need to add to our already, crazy life. But I talked to our Economic Development Corporation, and I was able to get a grant through them for a new restaurant. And so because of them, we were able to basically buy everything we needed to start a small little food program. So we started off with, it's a local pizzeria. They par bake their pizza crust, and they started going into wholesale. And so we were one of the first places that was able to actually try their food wholesale. We worked with them to create like a specialty pizza that was only available in our tap room. People loved it. We did a pizza of the month. So we were able to kind of able to, say, hey, what sounds good to people? Let's do a chicken bacon ranch or something like that. And that seemed to really bring in people too, just keeping things fresh. Since then, we've worked with a local beef processor who they grow their own cattle, they butcher it, they process it, they do everything right here in Phelps County, which is just insane. And then they make these incredible little burritos for us. We throw them in our ovens, and they're ready in 15 minutes or so. But I need to talk to you about that 2-minute pizza oven that you were talking about, because holy shit, that would be a game changer.
Turbo Chef Fire.
Turbo Chef Fire.
About $7,000 when we got it. They're now up about $16,000, but
Whoa.
it's the best investment we ever made.
Yeah, that would have been a good thing to get with my grant money. Dang it. But
So Jess, you mentioned like being someone who did not really want food. So how did you get your mindset to be accepting and actually helpful and wanting to invest in that program when the time came?
Free money is always a good motivator. So having somebody basically foot the bill for us to start that process was a huge, huge help. But essentially, just having the unreliability of those food trucks and we were starting to notice our customers were leaving to go eat somewhere else. And we're like, we've got to do something. This is, in the economic development world itself, if you've got your hands in that in your community, which I recommend you do, you start to notice a lot of other restaurants closing down, or a lot of them are shortening their hours. A lot of them are doing all of these other things. Okay, well, there's a need in our community. Let's try to fill it in any way that we can. And so, a partnership essentially is what it was that, really pushed us to do it. And we've been serving food for about 3 years now, and we're just starting to expand our menu again. My taproom manager does a fantastic job at it. So she's expanding our food program once more. So
awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Now, Jess, I have one quick follow-up, and I'm going to have everybody else around the table answer the same one, kind of like a rapid fire round. Jess, is there an item on your menu that surprised you how well it sells?
Cheesy breadsticks.
Cheesy breadsticks. Okay. Erin, how about you?
So we did hire a vendor for a year, and when he left, it wasn't a good situation. He said, "Whatever you do, don't do pizzas." But pizzas they're the best revenue you can add, and you can put anything on a pizza, and we do. So yes, I would say pizzas.
Brian,
if we don't have pizzas, they leave.
Our empanadas just kill it for us, and we do a weekly empanada beer special that is very, very well received. Chef David's been crushing it with those.
And when I was in Charlotte with Colleen, I think we talked about some sort of empanada challenge.
Yeah, there was. It started as more of an internal challenge of like, all right, a certain number of empanadas within an hour, alongside a certain number of beers in an hour, and then some of the customers started getting a little excited to see how many empanadas they could wolf down in an hour. So we haven't formalized it yet, but we might have to do a little competitive eating here in the future.
As long as everybody's being safe when they're eating all those empanadas.
Exactly.
Okay, Steven, you've kind of tried a lot of items out over the past bit. What's one that surprised you?
The smash burgers. Absolutely. Because there's I could name like 8 major chains here in town that, specialize in burgers and things like that. But our smash burgers, I got a veteran friend of mine who owns a smoked spice company where he actually smokes different kinds of spices and salts and things like that. And so we put that on the burgers, and everybody who comes in, so the best burgers I got, and they're $6, full on third pounder plus all the sides, everything's included, and people just destroy them. And we started it off one Sunday, and we were playing around. We do a slider challenge here every 3 or 4 months, where all of our cooks, including me, go through and we make our own signature smash burger slider, and then we offer it as a flight. So you get 4 or 5, depending on how many of us are working, and you get the slider flight challenge. And then the winner of that, we add that one onto the menu. And I was like, it's a simple burger. We just throw a little seasoning on there, and people destroy them. They absolutely love them, and I couldn't believe how popular that became.
You literally had me at slider flight. That's amazing.
Right? Because what we do is we do a specialty flight where I have all the brewers in here make a little 5-gallon batch, and then we do the slider challenge too. So you come in for $25, you get a slider flight and a specialty beer flight for that challenge.
That's super cool. Now we're going to mix it up because we got a lot to tackle in this hour. So Erin, I want to come to you because, we had a post in CBP earlier this year. I think I simply asked, what's one thing you're doing right now to innovate? And you commented you gave up distribution, correct?
Yes.
So talk to me a little bit about how giving up distro has been impactful for you all at ONCO.
We were kind of brewing for distribution, and it made us lose sight of what we wanted in the tap room. And then there were conditions all around, some around 2022, where everybody's growth plan was to send their cans and their kegs to New York State and even locally. So we just got smothered as not the shiny penny anymore. Our kegs would sit for a little too long before going on tap, and just really lost control. So, and we would end up having to go through the stock that our salesperson wasn't able to sell before we could add more. We keep it a 12-line tap. So we made the really hard decision to let that person go at the end of 2023 and rein it back in. So I keep a couple customers, but that's it. I will, you do miss the people. Hey, I had your beer here. It's a very negative. The outward branding, we're still having people find out that we're here. So that's also negative, but we do select beer festivals, and rely on word of mouth, honestly, because our customer service is what sells people to our space. So we harness that and we rein in, we hold on to that as our selling point. But we have quality of life too. We're brewing,
Yeah, I was gonna,
at least for now, till we, so we get refreshed and try some new things. But we're not churning on a wheel right now. We gave ourselves some breathing room while we keep watching what's going on around us. So.
No, Brian, you all chose to self-distribute, correct?
Absolutely. We, giving up control of your brand to a distributor is like the farthest thing down on the list of things that we want to do. I've navigated those challenges in the past, and certainly if you're just trying to grow wider and wider, sometimes it makes sense to look into a partnership, if you want to even call it that, with the wholesaler. But we wanted to maintain as much control over our brand as we possibly could. Our distribution footprint is not very wide. We're keeping it very hyper local. We've got a great sales rep. I'm definitely, helping out a lot with sales and delivery as well whenever I get a minute, and it's something that we're actively trying to grow. But we want to maintain control over over our brand, and we're definitely pickier, I'd say, with the accounts that we sell into, and we want to make sure that there's good alignment with those accounts in terms of representing our brand in the market, versus just doing a straight up volume play spray and pray type of model, which has just gotten so many breweries in trouble over the years in the past. So maintaining that control has been absolutely key for us.
Yeah, I'll say basically the same as Brian did. We started self-distro whenever the legislation passed it. I want to say 2.5 years ago. So we were a little slow. I always joke and say that we waited until marriage as far as it came for self-distribution. We didn't sign on into any accounts for distributors or anything. So our very first accounts I threw in the back of our brewery van, and I delivered 5 miles down the road, sold in a couple of cases of our bottled beer. So we're doing the same thing, keeping it hyper local, keeping control of who's selling our beer. Do they maintain their draft lines? Are they going to be pushing our beer? Things like that is important to us. Like, I don't want my beer to go on tap at a place where they just had a chili beer on tap, and now I've got my, hoppy Pilsner on and it tastes spicy. Why does it taste like that? So we're very select with who we do distribution through. They push for us, we push for them, and it's a great relationship. But yeah, keeping it hyper local and keeping control of your branding and your flavor. So,
Jess, how do you evaluate whether those distributor partnerships are a success?
Relationships say a lot about how things are going to go. If I have consistent turnover with who I'm dealing with at restaurant A, I know that my beer is not going to be getting pushed there. If I have, we brew the house beer for a restaurant 37 miles away in the bigger town. And the bar manager will send me, pictures of, hey, I'm having your beer at this place, not at his restaurant, but, just, I know he's going to advocate for my beer in his own tap room. And so those relationships, I think, are key. And it says a lot about, whether it's a beneficial place for you to have your beer on tap or not.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah,
Steven,
definitely.
how about you? Any thoughts?
Yeah, so we started off at the Fountain VFW, the VFW down in Fountain, Colorado. So we're the only brewery in America to ever start in a VFW. So we always kept it, they still have 4 of my beers on tap, even though we moved and we still work with them. But the distribution we've always kept real small, because I've watched what happened, especially over the last 5 or 6 years. Breweries that become more, they have to get their beer in every single liquor store, every single gas station. They distribute as far and as wide as they can. I've noticed with the majority of the ones that are getting bigger like that, the tap room kind of starts to suffer. They have to produce this much of this beer, so that beer is always on tap. They always have to make it. And the larger production they're getting and the more they're pushing it out, the more it becomes less personal in the tap rooms. You have so many more staff now, and people are out constantly having to do so many things, and it becomes less personable. At least at the ones I've been to. And like when we first started distributing, I was literally delivering kegs on the back of my motorcycle to the other VFWs that I was working with. Like that's actually the very first like spotlight.
I really want to see a picture of that, by the way.
Oh yeah. So in the Culinary Arts magazine, they did a beer called Bikers and Beers. And somebody got a picture of me driving down the road to deliver a keg of beer with it on the back of my motorcycle. And that's kind of how we got known right off the bat down at the VFW, because I didn't have a tap room. We didn't have anything like that. But I always wanted to keep it small. So we work with 3 different VFWs, and every now and then one of the local restaurants. And like, that's it. I mean, the most I have out at a time is maybe 10 kegs. And we were talking about distribution with the canning line and stuff. This was about 6-7 months ago, I finally got rid of the canning line, because with all the new stuff coming in and us not trying to push the cans, it was taking up a lot of room, and we really weren't seeing any big money off that, because we weren't selling pallets at a time. I was selling a couple of 4-packs at a time, and so it was like, this is a budget and a time-consuming thing that we're not really seeing that big of a turnover on. So I didn't want to grow too big.
Awesome. Thank you all for sharing your takes on the current state of distribution for each of your businesses. So now I want to dive into something all of you have kind of talked about before. We've kind of led in a little bit talking about events. I know, Brian, you talked about like monthly beer dinners, and a lot of the things you do at Atomic Clock, they're not even beer-centric. So talk to me about your philosophy for events, and shout out one event that has really kind of done well at Atomic Clock.
Yeah, I mean, as someone who kind of came up in this industry as a brewer, it's a little painful when beer takes a little bit of a backseat at some events, but we knew with the kind of hospitality focus and our desire to cast a very wide net and bring in a wide range of customers, not necessarily all of them having to be like huge craft beer fans. We knew that we wanted our events to kind of, reflect that mindset as well, and kind of not just be caught up in, I mentioned before, kind of like the brewery white noise of like, everyone does an Oktoberfest, and everyone, like it's kind of, and that's not to say, we just had our Oktoberfest a couple of weeks ago, and it was, one of the busiest days since we opened, but it did not beat our number one revenue day, which was our Nog Fest, an eggnog centered event in late December. My sister was very skeptical about doing an event surrounding eggnog initially. She was like,
was it an event you all planned internally, or was it a partnership with another organization?
It was internally. We made multiple types of eggnog. I made like a aged eggnog. Chef David made his coquito, and then we had a third eggnog flavor, and we were doing eggnog flights. We probably sold over $4,000 worth of eggnog that day. Beer was way down that list, but it wasn't completely out of the customer mind. I mean, I was dressed up as a Grinch doing hot pokers into beers out front of the brewery. It still felt like an event at a brewery. Just the glassware was coming back a little bit dirtier than otherwise, but it was fun because it really it kind of broke from like the events that people typically see at breweries. It brought in a lot of new faces, and it was just something that fewer people had seen, while still allowing us to have a lot of fun and do something we were really passionate for. And we've had other like tiki events, and we just did a big pig picking the other day, and beer does kind of, takes a little bit of a back seat, but we're still very much at the end of the day a brewery, and very beer focused in everything we're doing. But we recognize that we're operating in a very different world now, and you got to cast a wider net. You got to be doing some new things. You got to be pushing the envelope when it comes to innovation. It can't just be yoga nights, trivia nights, and Oktoberfest. It's like everyone's doing that. What are you going to do that's different?
So the Nog Fest is a very interesting one to me, because it's obviously not even a beer-centric event. It's another beverage-focused event. So I can see why Colleen, your sister, would have been a little hesitant on that. But what was the initial reaction of your core audience when they saw that you're doing something like that? And how did you get them to care?
We knew just with kind of marketing the event and just kind of the feedback we've gotten in terms of interest from customers that it was going to be a big event. We ultimately, like a few weeks before the event, we're like, I think we need to make twice as much eggnog, just in terms of like how much interest we were seeing in that event. And it definitely brought out some people that just do not care about beer whatsoever. But it was, even the beer people and like the beer industry people that came out, like we had a big industry turnout for that, just because I think it was something unique that nobody had really been doing yet. And, a lot of brewers and people that like craft beer do tend to, more often than not, like just craft beverages and cocktails in general. So there is, a lot of overlap in those Venn diagrams, and it's nice to be able to kind of, do something that gets you outside of the norm for what breweries are doing, while still being able to lean on that beer community to market the event and to build up a good following.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian. Now, Jess, you're in a smaller market. What types of events are you seeing success with, and why?
Yeah, so we have a small little farmers market on the courthouse lawn with a total of about 4 vendors, maybe. And I told myself there's got to be a better way to do this. And so I created my own makers market, and I invited a bunch of bakers and makers and growers and you name it. The only stipulation was that you had to create whatever item that you're selling there. I didn't charge for booth space. I made them bring everything that they needed to sell their own products, didn't provide any power, but I marketed the shit out of it. And first year I had 16 vendors. Second year I had 26 vendors. This last year I had 42 at one of my events.
Wow.
We block off the whole street. The city loves working with us. It's from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. I literally just stand at the gate. I have people come in, and they're new faces, people who aren't, they're not beer people. They're honey people, or they're soap people, or whatever, but they're there. And once they're there, it's a lot easier to get them to go inside and try your beer.
Totally. So you get them there. I get that you did that, but I quote, you marketed the shit out of it. So you're reaching new people. Like, how did you reach these new people through your marketing?
So it was a pipe dream, and I worked with this woman. Her name's Betty Sayers, and she is the most incredible woman I've ever met. I want to be just like her when I grow up. But she said, let's make it happen. And she took it upon herself to take these flyers, and she put them all over. I think she went in about a 30-mile radius of Holdridge, of our town, and she just tacked them up everywhere.
Old school.
Yeah, old school. And I mean, essentially, that's what it is. You have to have, handshakes and verbal communication to people to get them to come to your things. They can read all the flyers they want or see all the events on Facebook, but nobody's going to give a shit unless you're actually talking about it. So she was my advocate. She pushed for it. The vendors that I had come absolutely loved it. They said it was their favorite event that they've ever been to. So they pushed it a lot too. And so in the last 3 years, it has really just exploded. But I mean, since we don't charge for it, I told her, I said, I don't want to put any money into this because I'm not receiving any money for this. I don't want to put any money into it. So it was mostly just word of mouth. We created a Facebook event. We took pictures. We pushed it out. We had the radio here at the last one, and they showed up on their own. They wanted to just do a live broadcast here. So again, if you do it, they'll come. You just got to take that step and do it.
You have to be different. As I think Brian mentioned, you just can't do trivia, yoga, Oktoberfest. Everybody's doing those. So you got to find that mix of unique events.
Yeah.
So, Stephen, what are you doing? I mean, you've got a lot of breweries in your area.
We got 31 breweries here in town.
Right. You truly have to differentiate. So what drivers are you putting out there for people to make them come to your tap room?
Yeah, for a while there, we did like everybody else. We're doing karaoke night, trivia night, all those normal things. And then we just out of nowhere, we decided to try Dungeons and Dragons night. A lot of my staff play. There's some secret level nerdage back here. I'm like, I'm an infantry guy. I got 2 more infantry guys here. I got a fister. I got a air traffic controller, and yet we all play D&D secretly on the back. And so we push that out there, and it's become a great success. The game's been going for 10 months straight now, every single Tuesday, and people are always here. And we get more and more people that come in for like one-offs here and there. Once a month, they'll come by, so people can kind of come and go as they want. And then we went full, as that was working, we kind of went full nerd on it. We were like, this is our thing, because everything else was hit or miss, but that slammed. And then about 5 months ago, we started BattleBots. We actually do combat robot fighting here in the brewery. I spent the money I invested to buy a nice big arena that was safe and strong enough to handle it. And
just how big are you talking?
It's with the first one was 8 foot by 8 foot. This one's down to a 6 foot by 6 foot, because we do smaller bots. So we do like 150 gram, 1 pound, 3 pound, but the full combat destructive robots. The first month we did it, we didn't really tell anybody. I just had a few people that wanted to bring in their robots and kind of play around. And the people in the brewery lost it. They were like, what is going on over here? Because like they were just drinking, and all of a sudden they're hearing these robots smash against the wall. And now every month it's been bigger and bigger and bigger. People that have nothing to do with the sport, or they saw it on TV a few times, but seeing it in person while you're having a beer is just like mind blowing, so it's grown every month. And this last time we had 16 different robots here fighting. So, I mean, it's a full like 3-4 hour event, and people love it. And now we have the chess club here, which sounds crazy, but Thursday night is our bike night and our chess night. And like half the chess players also ride a motorcycle. So you see these big burly dudes, and they're also playing chess, so it's turned out amazing. And it's, and also, the things we do here are, I got as far away from everybody else I could. I was looking what everybody else is doing, and I was like, scrap all of that. So we got the chess club, we got D&D night, we got the battle bots. We just had a 3D makers space in here where the guy brought in 8 different 3D printers, and we had a class on it where people could come in. They took the class, got shown how to work everything, got to print their thing, and they got a beer. And it was really cool. These guys are aeronautics engineers, NASA employees, because up here we've got all the big centers. And some of these guys coming in here are PhD, doctorate, rocket scientists, like literally rocket scientists. So we kind of pushed more into that. And then all of the events we do here, we never charge. Any group that wants to come in here and do a retirement party, promotion party, fundraiser, charity, or one of these kinds of events where they just want to try something, we never charge to use our space. And that's actually helped us a lot, because with all this going on, other breweries are charging like $300 an hour, or, a minimum purchase order of $400 or $500 to bring your group in here. My tap room can seat 97. I just want people in the door. And like they mentioned, just having asses in the seat. That's literally, even if you don't buy anything, like we've done 2 sober social events here where I make all my own sodas as well. So we shut down the beer side of it and just had people come in for the soda and for the food and to be able to use our space. And those were a big success as well, and just getting them in here, even if they're not going to buy anything. Hey, I was at Wackadoo. I did that event at Wackadoo. People saying our name, and a person recommending our brewery, it will far outweigh any paid advertising you can ever do. Because when your buddy tells you he liked a place, that'll always outweigh a little flip through advertisement.
Good stuff there, Steve. Now, Erin, I want to hear from you too. Talk to us about the events you're doing at ONCO.
So we try to do an event monthly that pairs a food. Like we make an amazing sauerbraten, for example, that we do with our Schwartz beer release or something like that. So we try and do one of those a month just in general, but we also do events for causes. This weekend, I wouldn't have known about Empower Parkinson if I hadn't met the customer who is the head of it. And they, so we want to do 10 rounds. They have a boxing facility for Parkinson's individuals, and so we brew a beer called Knockout. We're on round 4, so we want to go to 10 rounds, so that's at least once a year that we'll get all those people in to celebrate. We help them through donations. They were able to buy a building, and they take our beer, and so they buy a bunch of the beer, and people come in and they try a beer and they like the label. And we've brewed beers for musicians, and throw an event for them. Anything to add to a different way to, like, we're doing a New Zealand Pilsner. So that'll be the first time anybody, including us, have tried one out of this brewery. So that's going to be what we're releasing on Saturday. We've done something for the library, try to keep it local, try to keep anything that's dear to us. And it usually brought in by a customer versus jumping on a hype. No offense to anybody on like a cancer program. We do donate to a couple of those things, but we don't make it a focus. There's plenty of other ways you can support that. So that's kind of where we keep it exciting every month. But again, beer is the focus.
Awesome. Thanks, Erin. So this call, it's unintentionally become, what are you doing that's cool, that's not beer, and how is it making you money? That seems to be what we're talking about right now. So it's about time we talk about other beverages. And Stephen, you mentioned you do sodas. Talk to us a little bit about the new products you're adding outside of beer. From everybody today, I love to hear things like seltzer, cider, canned cocktails, THC, whatever you're doing that's different. And then also while you're explaining, like, how do you balance if it stays true to your beverage lineup? And Stephen, why don't you kick us off?
Absolutely. First off, we're the only brewery in town that makes our own non-alcoholic beer. I always thought that one was important. Like the last couple of years, people have been like, "Oh, non-alcoholics are the new thing. Everybody needs to pay attention." And I was like, "We've been doing that for over 5 years." So I have some veteran friends of mine that know they shouldn't be drinking, and they miss being able to come out and still be a part of a group. And veterans, I'm just gonna be blunt, we're assholes. You see 6 guys with a beer and one guy's got a can of soda, we're gonna mess with them and be like, "Oh, look at you." And so we found making the non-alcoholic beers, especially on my limited scale and budget, it was difficult to really get them good and really make a solid product. But once I finally did, it took about a year, and I had constantly sent it off to the lab up in Denver, have them check the alcohol content, make sure I was doing it right, make sure everything was working. And once we nailed that, we've become known for that. A lot of people carry Athletic or one of the other big name brand non-alcoholics, but we make our own. And then from that transition was the hard seltzers, because people wanted something that was gluten-free. Hard seltzer is the easiest way to do it. For people that like the gluten-free beers, good for you. I've never been able to find any of those. I like the buckwheat and the millet, and the flavor just is weird to me. So we do the hard seltzers. I've been working on trying to make a good gluten-free one, but I haven't nailed it yet. So with the gluten-free, we do hard seltzers, but we do everything from scratch, all natural ingredients. We don't use the pumped syrups or flavorings, and then getting into the sodas, I've always made a killer root beer. And the first brewery I ever worked for, the brewer told me, before you ever make beer, you need to learn how to make a root beer. And if you can nail a good root beer, you have got your customers. They love that. Even people that are hardcore beer drinkers will still stop in and grab one of the root beers because it's awesome. And then we started doing lemon lime and orange, and our own version of a cola. And I mean, they're fairly easy to make, and we just keep them small batch because at first I tried making like a barrel or 2 at a time, thinking it'd be great. Soda doesn't last as long when you make it fresh. Like if you do the syrup, yeah, you can make it last, but fresh, it's good for like 2 months tops. So I started doing just 5-gallon, 10-gallon batches, and as they burn out, make another one. But people love that option. Or if they come in with kids, to be able to get a real craft soda versus just something out of a can. And so we're always playing with different things like that, trying to make them more. What else besides beer can I do? Like we did our first Braggart. That has been our number one seller. It's an amazing product because breweries can't do mead, cider, and wine. It's a different license, so you have to buy it from somebody else. But a Braggart is as close as you can get, and people really enjoy that. So making off products that are also beer related, or just having those there, it really helps pull people in.
Awesome, thanks, Stephen. Now, Jess, talk to us about your seltzer program you have at Lost Way.
Well, it's not as fancy as Stevens is, but we do a hard seltzer. It is 5.1%, and we're keeping it pretty consistent whenever we consistently brew it. But it's one seltzer, one unflavored seltzer that we have on tap, and from that we've been able to have a slushy machine. So that's got 2 seltzers, and we add in flavors. We use amaretti, but we've also just started doing ice cream. So if you do the powdered ice cream inside with seltzer, it makes the most amazing little milkshake seltzer, and they flew out of our tap rooms. It was insane. So we did that with like a little bit of orange juice concentrate. and it was like an Orange Julius. And I think we probably went through about 12 gallons of that in a weekend easily. It was awesome. But so one unflavored seltzer, we have the 2 slushy machines, and then we also have we do a seltzer sunrise, which is orange juice and grenadine. We do a bloody seltzer, hot and spicy V8, tahini, and Tabasco. We'll do some they're called stirs, but they're just like those little Mio pumps, and we'll just drop a couple of drops in that, and they sell incredible for Halloween and Christmas, or whatever ridiculous holiday we have coming up. We'll throw some glitter in the seltzer and sell that, and that's always a huge attraction for people to come in and who doesn't want a glitter seltzer?
Well, I think a decade ago, no one wanted a glitter seltzer. At least we didn't know they wanted a glitter seltzer.
Oh, they want them.
So at Las Vegas, like, how do you decide whether these, like, let's say the ice cream, the seltzer ice cream you're doing, it sounds delicious. I'm sure I would love it. Like, how do you decide, well, this matches our brand, this is something we should try, versus something like, oh, maybe not with us?
Yeah, so every year our community has this yearly event, and it's called Swedish Days, from the Swedish heritage of the community. Obviously, I'm not Swedish, so I don't know anything about that. But there was this dairy place here in the community, and everybody always talks about it. It was called Sweden Cream, and they always talked about these milkshakes, malts, whatever. And when it came down to us trying to decide what type of drink we were going to do for that festival, I was like, I wonder if we could get powdered ice cream, and instead of using water, we use seltzer and just throw it in the slushy machine. So I went to the local warehouse. I grabbed a box of them, and I thought, if it works, awesome. If it doesn't, we'll make ice cream one of these days and do root beer floats, because we do our own root beer. And so I'm like, either way, it's going to work out for something. And threw it in the slushy machine, threw some orange juice concentrate in there, and had one person try it. It looked so pretty in the glass. We did a little orange slice, a little Cool Whip, and it just looked so pretty that everyone was like, oh my God, what's that? What's that? And, so that itself, was people talking about it, and that sold it. So, it was a shot in the dark. I threw spaghetti at the wall, and shit, it stuck. So,
hey, it works. Erin, what about an ONCO? Anything unique outside of beer?
No, I mean,
Well, what? That's interesting.
Besides
So
the food.
why have you chosen to stay on the beer path?
Because it's why we're doing this. So we get by with limited cocktails, wine, cider. We're a farm brewery, so we can have New York wine, liquor, and so we add that for the other people. We've made a seltzer, and we probably should do it again. But every time we throw so much at we have a staff of 5, and we throw so much at them every week with a changing in a menu. And if there's a new, we try to get them to think of a cocktail, but they will once in a while. So no, it's really about getting the beer out there in their brains. There's a lot of people who we used to ring a bell when they were a wine drinker and they started drinking our sours, for example. So we're always about education. So, and who has to clean up? So we keep all those things in mind. That's why we won't have a slushy machine.
Fair enough. Now,
it
Brian,
is real big to clean, but damn it, it paid for itself in a month.
Sure.
Now, Brian, in North Carolina, are you dabbling at all in THC?
We are. We're definitely. We launched some THC beverages earlier this year, back in February, and we've definitely taken kind of a cautious pacing and an approach to that, just kind of as we monitor the regulatory developments, because right now it's very much the Wild West. I could literally sell this product to a 8-year-old if I wanted to, but fortunately the industry is self-regulating, and that's maybe not the best way to go with it long term. But I do see some bills that are working their way through. Something's going to change and needs to change soon, and we want to be we're hoping that it'll still be a viable option with whatever does change on the regulatory front. it has been a beverage that we've been able to, very easily execute on without a lot of barriers to entry and or additional equipment needs. And it's been extremely popular. Our big focus of us has always been, doing more than just beer and casting that wide net to drive a range of customers into our space. We've sold a lot of it in our space, and distro, we've been, again, a little bit more cautious with the pacing on that, just as we kind of watch the regulatory developments in that. But but we're having I'm having a lot of fun with it, and we have there's a tie back to beer because we have a hopped grapefruit soda and a hibiscus hop tea. So there are hops in all of our THC beverages, which kind of makes them a little more unique. And there's a lot of because there's a lot of just the LaCroix with THC that's out there in the market, and that's fine. But we wanted to do something that was a little more craft centric, that drank kind of like more like a cocktail. We found a lot of people that have been very, very happy with that and very eager to continue supporting that line of our business.
So I want to dive deeper into that. I love how that you put hops in the product, because you're right. So many are very, very similar in that market as they kind of just come to shelves. So I won't call any of the other panelists out, but in the chat, we had a couple of remarks. So the people who come in, they enjoyed the THC beverage. Are they one and done? Or are they just hanging out for a few hours? That's kind of like part one of the question. And part two, are they eating all of your food?
Well, I think the food sales always benefit from a little bit of THC coursing through the veins. That was something that we were initially very cautious about as well.
That they would eat all of your food and you wouldn't have
not
any.
That they would eat all of our food, but, over serving, bartenders are a little bit more used to, recognizing signs when it comes to, alcohol intoxication and inebriation. And customers and consumers as well are just more familiar with those products. You get somebody who's not a cannabis user or THC user that doesn't know what they're getting themselves into. That can be, there's a lot of risk there. So there's an education aspect of it in terms of staff communicating with customers. There have been, a lot of breweries in North Carolina that have, even if they're not making them, they're selling them. Some of them will definitely, force customers to pick a lane. Like if you're gonna buy a THC beverage, we're not going to sell you any more beer after that. We have not taken that approach, but we've definitely been very big on making sure our staff is very knowledgeable of the product, can talk to our customers, and we found that we're not getting a lot of customers that are coming out being like, I'm going to drink 5 of these. Because that could be risky, especially with the longer onset time with THC compared to alcohol. But I will say our beverages have a pretty quick onset time. So people start feeling it sliding in after about 30 minutes, and most of them are just having a one and done on that front. We're debating rolling out in January. Right now, our 2 products are 10 milligram strength. We're gonna roll out a 5 milligrammer just to have something that's a little lower octane for somebody that's maybe not as much of a seasoned user. Though we do see that most of the demand is actually for the higher concentration level, it's something we're going to continue to explore cautiously until it doesn't make sense to do so. But it's definitely been kind of a fun passion project of mine, and developing this new kind of sub brand. I personally, I'm drinking less alcohol, just like a huge swath of our customers are. It's not fun brewing when you're hungover, but if I'm able to wake up feeling a lot more spry the next day after a nightcap with one of those beverages, I think there's definitely a time and a place for those, and we're going to continue to see that category growing in the years to come.
Awesome, and thanks for sharing what you're doing now in that space, Brian. So for everybody who's tuned in the past hour, first off, I hope you leave inspired. We've heard so many cool ideas from Stephen, Brian, Erin, and Jess. I know there's mentioned events, there's food items, there's new beverages that I'm also curious about. So hopefully you can take some of these ideas and take them back to your brewery. But I want to leave you with an action item. And Stephen, because you went first earlier with the introductions, you get to go last this time. So you've got time to think, but you can't copy anyone's answer. And Jess, you get to start us off. Like for everyone who's tuned in to the conversation today and they're looking for ways to expand without losing control, what's something you would recommend to them? And take it however you wish. And just you are on mute. Sorry.
Okay. I guess what I would probably recommend is you can have all of the ideas that you want to have, the direction that you want your business to go, but at the end of the day, your customers are going to drive those decisions for you. So talk to your customers, talk to your very best ones, talk to people who are willing to do partnerships with you and figure it out. I don't know. I feel like everything just kind of landed in my lap with with this whole deal, but yeah, I would say your customers are going to be your best assets. And at the end of the day, you're doing everything for them. So find out what they want, what they like, and that'll be your next decision.
Awesome. Thanks, Jess. Erin, you're up.
That's exactly where we come from. Don't come from a place of panic. I mean, you see everyone doing, we should do that too. Just make sure you take a step back and you take a pause before you make that big leap, and make sure it's not going to extend you, and that you have a contingency plan in place. A lot of places didn't open with tap rooms or with outdoor seating, and luckily we had that to get through COVID. But I mean, we couldn't have saw that coming. Nobody could. But just make sure you try and cross off every dot and T of contingencies that can happen before you make that leap.
Awesome. Thanks, Erin. Brian?
I think the biggest takeaway that I'd want people to kind of glean from this conversation is that when you're thinking about intentional growth or expansion, that doesn't have to be like synonymous with like an overabundance of caution or risk aversion. At the end of the day, we are still entrepreneurs. We are, trying to innovate. But I would just challenge people to think more broadly what that innovation means in today's beer world. Where it's not about like, all right, I need a new IPA for next month. It can be more of a hospitality focused thing, and maybe a break with what has worked in the past or what breweries have done in the past, like bring in a cocktail program, explore a THC beverage, things that make sense with your brand, even if sometimes you're a little scared to get out of the think a little bit outside of the box of what craft beer has been, but think about what craft beer is becoming, and don't just be kind of stagnant. You gotta continue to be an entrepreneur that's willing to take risks.
Good insight there, Brian. Now, Stephen, take us home.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing, like he said, is you can't be stagnant. You always have to be evolving. This industry is constantly changing, and people are, this is how I've always done it. This is how it's always going to be. I've been watching those breweries close, the ones that have been open 10, 15 years, but they always had the same. Great, you have a hallmark, you have a staple. This is what you're known for. But if you can't change with the times, you're going to be hurting. Like, we're constantly evolving stuff here. And it isn't spending $500,000 to completely renovate your building, buy all new equipment and start over. I've got events like the BattleBots event, perfect example. $2,000 for me to build that damn arena. It was expensive, but it was worth it. It's made it one of our best days every month. On the other hand, I spent $60 buying this stuff so that we could run the D&D, and that's every Tuesday night. And if you add up those 4 Tuesday nights, it makes more than the BattleBots event does. So sometimes it's worth it dumping a lot of money into something. But on the other hand, sometimes it's something little you do that can make a huge change. Like we have our Mug Club members where I invite them in if they want to. And throughout the year, I make beers for my Mug Club members. They come in and they name some random crazy style of beer, probably something I've never done before, but it's helped me evolve and grow because I take their idea, put it on tap, they got to name it, and then they get to tell other friends, hey, come and try the beer that I made, that I wanted to design. And we'll do that through them. But usually like once or twice a month, I'm putting on a beer made by one of my Mug Club members. So we have 20 taps, so I've got that room where I can put on something weird and different. Sometimes it's a hit, sometimes it's not. But making something different, making your customers a value of your brewery. It's not just they're coming to you, they're coming there because that's what they love.
So many quotable moments from today. I appreciate you four so much. So everybody, thanks for tuning in to the CBP Fall Virtual Conference. Once again, shout out to TapWyse and Ollie for all their support. So Stephen, Brian, Erin, and Jess, you four have been awesome. I'm really looking forward to pints in person someday. So I really hope that happens before too long. But everybody, enjoy the rest of the event. Cheers,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Cheers.
Bye.
Cheers.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this session, we'd love to see you in real life. We host in-person workshops across the country for craft beer professionals just like you that are held in some of the most exciting beer destinations around. These immersive events are designed to help you grow and connect with others. You'll meet peers from across the country and leave with actionable strategies for success. Connection has never been more important, and you can learn more at cbpconnects.com. Cheers. See you there.